Friends, we have some serious urgent updates I need to get to you right now. We have a major solar flare coming, and we've just been told that FEMA has run out of money. Yes, friends, I know we just gave them $20 billion. I know they have a budget of over $30 billion, and we haven't really had disasters yet this year. Yet somehow FEMA has managed to blow through all of their money, and now they're saying they don't have enough for the Americans in danger and what's going on down in North Carolina particularly. This is infuriating. I know that a lot of you guys have contributed directly with organizations or with Pinball or with Patera or helping with Grindstone. And yet we see the federal government, who has money for every single other person in the world, doesn't have any money for Americans who are in desperate need. We're going to give you some updates on kind of some of the things I'm hearing out of North Carolina. Very disturbing things. Perhaps not the best video if you have little ears. I won't get into that right now, but in a bit I'm going to share some things that little ears may not want to hear. I won't use any bad words, but it's truly upsetting what has transpired in North Carolina and some of these other places too. Over in Tennessee, we're hearing that some of these areas are still not accessible. I'll save that report just for just a little bit so you guys can adjust or whatever. But just the fact that we can see on satellite that a whole swath of the United States looks like it turned into North Korea at night. All the lights out, over 1 million people still without power, and we're being told that the damage to our infrastructure, to our power, is immense. We're talking about power substations totally flooded, that all the equipment has to be replaced. We're talking about power lines turned into spaghetti, according to the governor of North Carolina, that they're just piled up like spaghetti. How do you even begin to fix that? Are you supposed to assess those power lines and see if they're still potentially operating, or can you still use them? I don't know the answers to all these problems. But we're also hearing disturbing reports. I'm going to hit that now, and then you can turn people back on or whatever, or you just skip forward if you want to. Or hearing reports of power crews going into areas and seeing little children who have been tied to pieces of wood or other floatable material, and they can't find their parents. They've clearly been neglected. Their parents are gone, haven't been there for days. They're just wandering around, still tied to these pieces of debris. We're hearing reports of people who didn't make it. They haven't been recovered. They're just laying around up in trees. Truly disturbing reports. So I'm done with the stuff that is haunting right now, okay? Just to give you that idea of how desperate things are. We have the Air National Guard in North Carolina doing a fantastic job airlifting over 1,000 tons of food so far to isolated areas where they can't get out. But we're starting to get reports from people who have Starlink access inside some of these areas inside North Carolina. So if you live in a relatively isolated area, having a Starlink and some solar panels might actually be one of the biggest things you could do if you're in an area that could be cut off. We're seeing a lot of aid flowing into some of the cities and some of the bigger towns and such, but apparently back in the boonies, back in the hollows, things aren't getting through. They can't get through on the roads, and some of these villages and towns and groups of houses have suffered immensely, and there's been no help coming. I know a lot of you guys listen to prepping channels and listen to preppers and listen to talk about get prepared, get prepared, get prepared. I fear that many of you haven't taken the steps that if you were in this situation, you would be in dire straits too. I want you to ask the question, if your power got knocked out, if your roads got blocked, or if you ran out of gas so you can't drive anywhere, would you be all right for a couple weeks? Would you be all right for a couple weeks? Can you eat? Do you have enough water? You can't drink the water. If you have a stream behind your house, unless you have water purification, that water is so tainted with so much stuff, even unmentionables in there, right? You need water purification. You need to have a water source, or better yet, have purified water in bottles. We say so much, and I know, and I've been to these disaster zones, and people are just completely unprepared, and then it's a shock that people aren't getting to me fast enough. And it's heartbreaking because on one side, we could have a federal emergency management agency that actually does something, but the truth of the matter is, all these disasters I've ever been to, FEMA doesn't do anything. FEMA is the guy with the clipboard who comes in and checks on the volunteer organizations. FEMA is the guy who comes in with a clipboard full of checks, and they can write checks and give them to people. They can give them to organizations. They can go up to food and say, we're buying out this warehouse. We're buying out 10 truckloads of food. Here's the check. And then that food can get loaded onto trucks that organizations have provided and move those over. FEMA doesn't do diddly squat except give out money. And the one thing that FEMA does, apparently they can't do anymore because they're out of money. A budget of over $30 billion. What do? Do they have fire trucks? Do they have helicopters? Do they have warehouses full of stuff? No, they don't have any of that. So how do they spend $30 billion? That's like the GDP of a small country. What do? They help others at the border. And that's the real question here. Are the people who have been displaced and impacted by the hurricane, are they getting free cell phones? That's an honest, legitimate question. Because apparently people in need, we give them free cell phones. Is everyone getting put up in nice hotels? No, not happening there either. Are they getting free gift cards handed out to them by the government? No, that's not happening either. So, of the $20 billion earlier this year, they whined, we don't have enough money. We don't have enough money for hurricane season. And the whole question was like, well, where'd you spend it? Where did it go? Well, we know exactly where it went. They knew that if there was a storm, which there probably would be, it's hurricane season, right? That's why we call it that. They knew that if there was a hurricane and they had emptied the piggy bank, the slush fund, into all their little private, proposals and agendas, that Congress would race back to Washington, D.C. and stamp them out a blank check for however much it will take to save the American people. And so they emptied out all of the disaster funds. And you're wondering how they could afford these hotels, buying out whole hotels in New York City for months, for a long period of time. And we're not even talking at market rate. They're paying them above market rate, of course, because who would want to house people who are probably going to start fires in your rooms, okay? And that sounds silly, and yet you bring people who have come literally straight from Africa, and they haven't had electricity. So yeah, that happens. There's going to be damage to the hotels. And so hotel owners are a little wary. And so FEMA has been paying above market rates for thousands of, not thousands of hotel rooms, thousands of hotels. And they book the whole thing out. And then they move people in on a permanent basis or a partial basis. All these others coming from other places have literally been receiving billions of dollars. And this is not FEMA money, but we just gave $2.4 billion just last week to the country in Eastern Europe. $2.4 billion out the door. How much for Americans who are literally starving and can't get water, don't have fuel, people are taking wagons to go get water and fuel. We're hearing of places where they're rationing the water, where people are only given food for one day and water for one day. Limited amounts of water for just the people in your household. 5 gallons per household in some places. This is insane, friends. How are people supposed to survive on that? I mean, some of these people were prepared and their houses got flooded and all of their preps got taken away. Let's just put a spin on it like that. I'm not about shaming or blaming the victims. Don't you be unprepared in such a situation, though, okay? We all need to be prepared in such situations, but these people need to be helped, and they need to be helped now. And if this government thinks that helping people around the world to transplant themselves so that they can live in a fancier place and have a fancier job is top-notch important, but then helping the people in our country to survive a catastrophic storm is not their top priority, these people need to be not only thrown out of office, but there needs to be hearings and there needs to be consequences. And I'm talking about those in charge of FEMA. Every single person in FEMA that has been facilitating using all of this money to help non-U.S. Americans and then not helping Americans should be held liable. I would not be against Donald Trump coming into office and having Elon Musk, the Department of Governmental, what was he calling? It's something that spells out Doge, but governmental efficiency or whatever. Department of Governmental Efficiency. And honestly, just like down in Argentina, what should happen is they should just literally fire entire departments. The Department of FEMA should be fired. The whole thing. The whole thing. It is an absolute train wreck. They are doing un-American things with the money, and then they're crying that they don't have money to help Americans. It's their only job. And you have awesome Americans out there, all the folks that have gone out with pinball, all the folks in this audience that are out there with organizations volunteering. I've seriously considered cutting this thing short and hopping on a plane and getting back and helping, because the stuff that's happening is just absolutely catastrophic. And unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I've let my health get so bad. How much help can I really be? And I'm dependent on other Americans to step up for this deployment, for this round. There's going to be a lot of work to do along in the future. Those who Grindstone's been doing a fantastic job actually doing rescues, which is something I don't do and I've never done. I've done mass feeding with the mobile kitchens. I've done recovery work in the houses, flooding down in Kentucky. Disasters happen, but from what we're seeing with the scale of what happened in North Carolina as well as Georgia, we haven't seen anything like this. The amount of water that was dumped is just something else. And I know a bunch of people have been sending me stuff asking questions like, is this this doesn't look normal. Like, do they do something here? But getting back to this important update too, I mentioned at the beginning, but there is a solar storm that has just happened. I just saw that cross the wire like 2 hours ago with suspicious space weather. One of the guys that do that, Suspicious Observers, does the sky tracking as well. They're reporting a was an X 9.0. It's the biggest solar flare since 2017. So that just, you always hear like, oh, it's a big one or whatever. This is the biggest one since 2017. And this is almost certainly going to impact radios. So if you have people that you know that are using radios to help people, make sure they're aware of the solar storm, because this is probably going to impact radios big time. Now, it doesn't necessarily look like it will cause catastrophic issues for power grids or anything like that. We didn't see any issues like that in 2017. However, this is the storm that happened on the sun. How that's going to impact Earth is something that is a little harder to guess, but this was an Earth-facing solar storm, and it is going to impact Earth with something. How bad will it be? I don't know. We got the poles flipping and just, that's not my area of expertise. It's my warning to let you guys know that that's about to happen. It's a good prep if you're at home to put your stuff in Faraday cages and bags. Prep getting it back in there. If it's come out, check your stuff before you seal it up once again. So definitely check that as well. All right, friends. We are also getting a report out there that MREs are in short supply now because they've given out so many to the others out there. And now they don't seem to have enough for the Americans. So please be checking on what you got. If you want to donate some stuff, make sure you're giving it to a reputable organization. Usually those organizations are going to do better with cash. Don't go out to the store, buy stuff, and then send it, generally speaking, unless you know somebody who desperately needs certain specific things. My church right now is packing up a truck to go down to North Carolina. And they're putting Benadryl in there because apparently they're having a lot of problems with people getting stung by bees. When they go out to chainsaw something, they're getting stung by bees, and people are having allergic reactions to that. And so they really need Benadryl. I don't know if that's the same case down in other areas, but that's what we're hearing, and we're putting a bunch of that on the truck heading down south. Please work with your churches. Please work with organizations. Don't. I hate to say, try not to Lone Ranger it if possible. Okay, if you know of specific needs, try to run them through an organization, because I know the governor of North Carolina has shut down a lot of the roads for emergency use only. They do not want people coming into the state right now. So try to work with organizations if you can, and that will make things smoother for everybody. Special organizations that have people on the ground who actually know how to get stuff in. They've worked getting stuff in already. They know where problems are. They know where it's needed. Work with them and do what you can for everyone. All right, friends. Thanks so much for joining with me. I will keep you updated as best I can. I'll get this out in the next couple minutes for you to watch and for you to know what's going on. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.